Good day. So now, in our fourth week, we will be studying about one-to-one functions. So we have already learned in our past lessons kung ano yung functions. Okay? So paano ba natin masasabi na functions? Okay? So for example, we have table of values for x and y. Okay? So these are just example. Okay? So nakita agad natin, no? Na dalawa yung 1 dito sa x values or sa domain niya. Okay? Tapos, may kapartner silang magkaiba ring y value. Okay? So, si 1, ibig sabihin niyan, is may dalawa siyang kapartner na y value. Okay? So, dito pa lang, hindi na natin masasabi na ito ay function. Okay? Since, pag sinabi nating function, okay, dapat, okay, iisa lang yung kapartner ni x. Okay? So, for a diagram, here is an example. Okay, so we have shapes for x and we have the colors for y. Okay, so kung nakikita natin dito, no, si x may corresponding or si triangle may corresponding color siya, which is red. Si rectangle corresponding color, which is yellow. Okay, and this polygon green and this square is also red. Okay, so this can be called a function. This is an example of function kasi tig-iisa lang yung partner ni x. Okay, so now mag-focus tayo sa one-to-one functions. So ano nga ba yung one-to-one functions? Okay, so first, here are our content and performance standards. So the learner demonstrates understanding of key concepts of inverse functions, exponential functions, and logarithmic functions. And the learner is able to apply the concepts of inverse functions, exponential functions, and logarithmic functions to formulate and solve real life problems with precision and accuracy. Okay, so here are our marks for this week. First, the learner represents real-life situations using one-to-one functions. The learner determines the inverse of one-to-one functions. So the learner also represents an inverse functions through its table of values and graph. And lastly, the learner finds the domain and range of an inverse function. Okay, so now let's move on to our first lesson, which is representing real-life situation using one-to-one functions. So these are real-life problems, no? So application siya ng one-to-one functions. Okay, objectives. After this session, learners are able to determine if a function is one-to-one and identify real-life situation using one-to-one function. Okay, first off, let us study the graph. Write the values of y in the table on the right. Okay, so for x is equal to -2, titingnan natin, nasan ba si x equal to -2? So ito po yun, no? Okay, so -2, ano ba yung corresponding y value niya? Yun po ay 0. Si -1, ano yung corresponding value ni -1? So, nasan si x is equal to -1? Tingin tayo sa graph. Here it is, -1. And then, ang value niya ay okay, 3. And x is equal to 0. Anong value kaya ni x equals 0? Nasaan po yun? So, ito po yun. So, ang y value or y coordinate is also 0. So, C1, ito po yun. Okay. Ang y coordinate ay y is equal to -3. And for x is equal to +2, y is 0. Okay. So for our next graph, we will again write the x and y values. Okay. So for x is equal to -2, what is the value of y? For x equal to -2, ito po yun. So nasan yung yun magpo-point dito sa ating graph. Okay. So for negative x equal to -2, nag-fall si y kay -1. So y is equal to -1. Then si -1, okay, ito po yon. So nag-fall siya kay 0. Then si 0, x is equal to 0, ang katapat niya ay 1. And for x equal to 1, tapat niya ay 2. And for 2, x equal to 2, ang katapat niya ay number 3. Okay? So these are the x and y coordinates of the graphs. Okay. So kung mapapansin natin, no, sa unang graph natin, okay, so may mga parehas bang values dito sa ating y? So meron po, mapapansin natin, pare-parehas 0 yung y values for -2, 0, and 2. Whereas yung second graph natin, kung mapapansin natin, so tig-iisa sila, no? So hindi na ulit, okay? Kay -2, partner niya si -1. Si -1, partner niya ay 0. Si 0, partner niya ay 1. Si 1, partner niya ay 2. Si 2, partner niya ay 3. So hindi tayo makakakita ng naulit na y value. Okay po? Okay, so now, let us define one-to-one functions. Okay? So, ano nga ba yung definition niya? So, a function f is one-to-one if it never takes the same value twice, or f of x sub 1 is not equal to f of x sub 2 whenever x sub 1 is not equal to x sub 2. So, meaning, ano pong meaning nun? And shortcut, no? So, sa madaling salita din, the same y value is never paired with two different x values. Katulad nung nakita natin sa pangalawang graph. No? So, hindi na ulit yung y value. Okay? So, may tig-iisa silang kapartner. So, that is one-to-one functions. Okay? So, for this diagram, okay, so here is the x values and the y values. Okay, so para kay x, meron tayong mga corresponding values or x values. And for y, okay, meron din tayong corresponding y values. Kung mapapansin natin, tig-iisa sila ng partner. No? So walang mauulit dito sa y. Okay? So kay -3 ang partner niya ay 0. So -1, 1, 0. Kay 2, si 1 ay kay 4, si 5 ay kay 3. Okay? So from the word itself, one-to-one, okay? So one-to-one function. So function f is a one-to-one since not two inputs have a common output. Okay, for our next diagram, So sa tingin po ba natin ay ang function na f ay one-to-one or hindi? Okay? So this is already not one-to-one. Kasi nga po, hindi natin one-to-one, dapat may tigi-isa lang silang partner. No? So, si negative 3, 0, okay? Nakikita natin dito, parehas si negative 1 at saka si 0. Parang nag-share sila, no? Kay 2. So, hindi po yun masasabing one-to-one. Okay? So bawal ang sharing pala dito kay one-to-one. No? So, si negative 1 and 0, sharing ka kay 2. Okay? May value na 2 yun. And si 1 kay 4, tapos si 5 ay kay 3. So, this whole function is not one-to-one. Okay, now on the other hand, the function g of x is equal to x squared is not a one-to-one function. So, bakit po? Okay, since for negative 1 and 1, substitute natin, no? Yung negative 1 at saka 1 kay x squared. So, kunin natin. G of x is equal to x squared. Okay. For g of 1 or g of negative 1, so negative 1 square natin. So, ano pong sagot kay g of negative 1? That is 1. Okay. So, for g of 1 naman, that is 1 squared. G of 1. Okay, 1 squared is still 1. Okay po? So, sa x values na negative 1 at saka 1, so parehas po sila na 1 yung answer or 1 yung y coordinate. Okay? So, parang nag-share sila again kay 1. So, this g of x is equal to x squared is not considered a one-to-one function. Okay, so now let us determine whether the given relation is a function, and then if it is a function, determine if it is one-to-one. Okay, so the relation pairing an SSS member to his or her SSS number. Okay, so this is a function and this is a one-to-one function. Okay, so paano natin nasabing one-to-one function po ito? For example, si John, no? And si Mark. Okay, for example, SSS number nila 1012, then 1034. Okay. So this is just an example, no? So hindi sila pwedeng mag-share ng the same SSS number. Okay? So ang SSS number kasi ay specific lang sa tao or sa SSS member. Okay? So bawal ang sharing, thus pwede natin consider to na one-to-one function. Okay? So now, the relation pairing a person to his or her citizenship. Okay? So this can be also called a function but not one-to-one. Okay? So bakit po? For example, si Joy and Mary. Okay? So parehas silang Filipino. Okay? So ang ang x values natin si Joy and Mary, tapos sa y natin is Filipino, which is a citizenship. Okay? So parehas sila, nag-share sila sa isang y value or parehas sila na Filipino. Thus, hindi na natin to pwedeng i-consider as one-to-one function. Okay, so paano ba yung graph ng isang one-to-one function? So if f is a one-to-one function, then no 2 points, x sub 1, y sub 1, and x sub 2, y sub 2 have the same y value. Therefore, no horizontal line cuts the graph of the equation y is equal to f of x more than once. Okay, so in the graph, paano natin ipapakita yon? Okay, let us compare the graphs of the different functions. Okay. So we have here a linear graph and we have a parabola here in our second picture. Okay. So how to determine if a function or a graph is one-to-one? So we will have the horizontal line tests. Okay, so ano po ba yung horizontal line test? So a graph passes the horizontal line test if each horizontal line cuts the graph at most once. Ibig sabihin po, so na-intersect ng horizontal line ay iisa lang. So hindi siya pwedeng mag-intersect sa ating graph na dalawa or tatlo. So basta dapat isa lang yung ma-intersect ng horizontal line natin. And a function is one-to-one if and only if the graph y is equal to f of x passes the horizontal line test. Okay, for example, kaya dito yung one-to-one sa figure 3 and figure 4. So, sino kaya dito yung one-to-one? Okay, so this is the vertical line test. For example, yan. So, move natin yung vertical line natin across sa whole graph natin, okay? So, pagdating dito sa part na to, no? So, naka-intersect tayo ng dalawa. Okay? So, na-intersect niya una ito. And then this. So, tatlo pala, no? Or this part of our graph. Okay? So, tatlo yung na-intersect niya. So, hindi siya nakapasa sa horizontal line test natin. Thus, this is not one-to-one function. Okay? How about the second graph? So, kahit i-move natin yung vertical line natin across sa, sa buong graph natin. Okay? Ayan. So, taas baba natin. No? So, iisa lang lagi yung nai-intersect niya sa ating graph. Okay? So, thus, this passes the horizontal line test and thus, also, this can be considered a one-to-one function. Okay, so let us further move on. Okay, now let us have an activity understanding one-to-one functions. So let us determine whether each situation is a one-to-one function. Okay, the first, the relationship of a dog to its family members. So this cannot be one-to-one function. Since, for example, ako and yung kapatid ko, parehas kami na may-ari ng asong yon. Okay? So, we are sharing one dog. Okay po. So again, bawal yung sharing, no? Dapat may tig-isa kaming aso para masabi na one-to-one function. Itong example na to. Next, the relation of a person to his or her passport. Okay, isipin natin, specific lang ba ang passport sa isang tao? So, pwede ba dito ang sharing? So, pwede ba na parehas kami ng kapatid ko ng passport? So, hindi po, no? So, 1:1 din yung passport natin. So, this can be considered one-to-one since tig-iisa ang passport ng mga tao. Okay po? So now, we have a car model to its manufacturer company. Okay? Car model, for example, Wigo, tsaka Avanza. Okay? So, si Wigo at saka si Avanza, so parehas silang Toyota, no? So, they are sharing the same manufacturer company. Thus, this is not one-to-one. Okay? So now, a short to where it lives. So, pwede bang mag-share sila ng isang tahanan or isang um, shelter? So, hindi po, no? So, mag-aaway sila. So, thus, this is a one-to-one function. So, true or false questions to answers. Okay, so for example, may question sa number 1. So, the sun is bigger than the earth. Okay, tas another question. Okay, so the moon is smaller than the sun. Okay, so mapapansin natin, no? Ang sagot sa dalawang question na to ay true. Okay, so these two true or false questions share the same answer, which is true. So now, so thus, this cannot be considered a one-to-one. So ang sagot po ay not one-to-one. Now,